Welcome to our second breakout session of this year's ILOC conference. And because this is already our second breakout and our third presentation of the day, I think most of you know our housekeeping things. Just remember you can use the chat to share your funny named towns or your relatives who live in neighboring towns. That's what we've been discussing here before we started, and to ask questions. We would love to hear your questions. I will be monitoring the chat and we'll ask those questions of our presenters at the end. Also, I know you're all interested in CE. Just realize that we'll have the details for that at the end as well. Now, let me just move forward because I don't want to take away time from our presenters today. This is all about county connections. And with me are three library directors, all from Clayton County, and they're all in the same room, which is so cool. Lisa Wilkie Pope is director of Elkader Public Library. Heidi Lant is director of Murphy Hellwig Library in Monona, and Kathy Shaw is director of Edgewood Public Library. And among the three of them, they have 77 years of combined library experience, which is amazing. They all started working at the library when they were 10 years old, and that's how they got all this time gathered together among them. So I'm going to turn it over to the three of them so they can tell you all about county connections.
Good morning. Like Marianne said, I'm Lisa Wilkie Pope. I'm the director of the Elkader Public Library. I was born and raised in Elkader and moved away and came back 30 years later, and here I am. So, and I'm part of this great group that is the Clayton County Library Association. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm technical here. Need to move some screens around. Okay, so the Clayton County Library Association, and like Marianne said, is presented by Heidi, Kathy, and myself, and we are just three of 9 libraries. So we want to tell you a little bit about our county to start with. We are located in the northeast portion of the state in the Driftliff area. So we have, we're bordered on the east by the Mississippi River, and we have beautiful bluffs and rolling hills. And because of that, our area gets quite a bit of tourism. We are the 5th largest county in the state out of 99 counties when you're talking about area. When you're talking about population, we are number 44. So we're somewhere kind of in the middle as far as population. And per capita income, unfortunately, out of 99, we are number 76. So that's a little bit lower than we would perhaps like. Some other statistics about our county. 91% of our residents have a high school diploma or higher educational level. 46% are 50 or older, and 12% are below the poverty line. So I want to remind people that these are the total statistics for our county. However, each of our towns has a little bit different makeup of those percentages.
Oh, another fun fact to point out is that Clayton County doesn't even have a stoplight in the entire county.
Fun facts about Clayton County. So about our library association now. We are the collective partnership of the 9 libraries in the county. And it was originally organized in 1961. And even though Marianne made us feel old, it was established before I was born. So I was like, oh, yay, okay, now I don't feel quite so old. And the first endeavor was to obtain funding from the county in order to serve the rural patrons. I also found, coming across when I was looking up some history, in 1962, just a year later, Clayton County became one of the first counties in the state to take advantage of a new law allowing counties to levy a tax for library support. So I'm guessing that the Clayton County Library Association's endeavor helps result in that. So that's something to really be proud of. Okay, so I mentioned that we have 9 libraries, and we range in size from A to C. So our smallest libraries are Farmersburg Public Library and Volga Public Library. And we all know that libraries are important to all of our communities, but I think it is even more so in small public libraries where there are very limited resources, or stores, gas stations, or other businesses, or perhaps lack thereof. So this is the Farmersburg Public Library. Farmersburg is a town of 271 people. They are a great resource for that small community, and Heidi Lunt also is the director of the Farmersburg Library, in addition to the Monona one. Part of one of the challenges of being in a very small area is finding and keeping a library director, because there are just limited population that is qualified for those kinds of positions. The Volga Public Library is our smallest, the smallest town in Clayton County that has a library. It has a population of 247 people, and they are very excited. We have 2 pictures there. They're very excited because the old library, our current library, is on the left, and they are in the middle of a remodel project for a new library location and remodel. So they are, we're all excited for that.
Yeah, still have a lot more space now.
And Carla Duff is currently the library director of the Volga Public Library. So we have 2 in size A, and now we have 3 libraries that are size B. The Edgewood Public Library, the Garnavilla Public Library, and the McGregor Public Library. And I want to point out too that each of our libraries offers many services, and they do it what's best for their community. Like we heard in some of the morning sessions that you have to get to know your community, and you have to know what your community needs, and how they can best serve their community. For instance, some of the libraries have an evening story time, some have evening summer reading programs, some have mornings, some have more Saturday events, things like that. Okay, so the Edgewood Public Library, Kathy Shaw is the director, and she's here today. Edgewood Public Library, the town of Edgewood has 897 people at the last census. It is unique because Edgewood covers it's partially in Clayton County and partially in Delaware County. So there are some unique challenges in having a town that sits over 2 counties. Garnavilla Public Library has a population of 763. And they are the collection site for the community food shelf, or the food pantry, as well as the drop-off and pickup site for dry cleaning. And June Walter is the director of the Garnavilla Public Library. McGregor Public Library is another one of the B libraries. The town of McGregor has a population of 742. McGregor is a scenic town on the Mississippi River, which also gets a lot of tourism. And the library is very busy there. They this past summer, they had daily activities for adults and students, and they just served their public very well with different activities. And Michelle Pettit is the director of the McGregor Public Library. Okay, so then we have 2 size A, 3 size B, and 4 size C libraries. And they are the Elkader Public Library, the Gottenburg Public Library, Murphy Hellwig Library in Monona, and the Strawberry Point Public Library. So this is my library, the Elkader Public Library. Our town population is just over 1,200 people. Elkader is unique in that it is the county seat of Clayton County. So we have county offices here, county courthouse. We also have, the town also has a historic Keystone Arch Bridge. And so we get a lot of tourism for that, but we also get a lot of traffic in the county because of those county services and people needing those services. Guttenberg Public Library. Guttenberg is the largest town in Clayton County with a population of just over 1,800 people. They too are on the Mississippi River, and they also have a lock and dam, get lots of fishing and tourism because of that. And Katie Simon is the director of the Guttenberg Public Library. Murphy Hellwig Library in Monona. Monona has a population of 1,471 people. Heidi Lunt is the director, who's here too. And just a few years ago, they did a big remodel and expansion project. And so they have a much larger facility and a beautiful, gorgeous facility now as well. After all that work, as the former director will also attest. Yes. And last but not least is the Strawberry Point Public Library. Strawberry Point has a population of 1,155. That library is a little bit unique in that it is attached or adjacent to a child care facility. And Patty Lincoln is the director of the Strawberry Point Public Library. So like I said before, we're all in the same county, but we're all unique. We all have different levels of support as far as city budgets, and some of the libraries have Friends Group and some libraries have foundations, but others do not. Okay, so the Clayton County Library Association, we have $10 dues per year. We wanted to keep the dues minimal so it doesn't hurt anybody's budget. And that helps to pay for our summer round robins, which are activities that Heidi will talk more about a little bit later. And we also have a nonprofit status. We are a 501c3 organization. And that allows us to apply for grants as one entity instead of 9 separate little libraries, in which, would be more difficult for us to do individually. And Kathy will talk a little bit more about what those grants purchased or how those grants helped the libraries in our association. So our directors meetings, we have them almost monthly. We do sometimes take off the summer months, and if we meet in person, we meet at a central location, which is usually here in Elkader. And I provide treats from the bakery. Ever since the pandemic started, we've been doing Zoom meetings, which is just convenient and nobody has to travel and we don't have to worry about bad weather. And we don't have to worry about staffing if some of us are the only person working in our library that day. So the Zoom meetings are very convenient. The purpose of those meetings is to help new directors, and by new directors, I don't mean just brand new to the career position, but also just new to the area. For instance, I came in, I'd been a director of a public library way back at the beginning of my career, and then I'd been school librarian, and then I came back to the public library again. And this organization and these people were very helpful in kind of transitioning me back to public library world. And plus it had changed a lot since the last time I had been in the public library. So it's helped new directors answer questions, and there you'll see a couple of pictures of us, or the past directors. So I think Kathy, well, there's a couple of us still there.
You might notice the pink shirts. We had been at a directors meeting, and we were all going to the summer reading program workshop, and we decided it might be nice to make ourselves visible. So we got matching shirts. Well, come to find out, I picked out pink and Heidi does not like pink. So if you could see the three of us today, we now have purple shirts that we wear to be visible in our communities.
And because that we all come from different communities that have unique makeups, that it is very helpful for one another to, give advice and to give suggestions. More on that is we also give advice on completing annual surveys and accreditation for new directors. That can be a little bit intimidating. We also can arrange carpools to CE events. We can recommend titles for book clubs and just personal reading, or what's hot at your library, what's really popular. Also, it's a little bit social. We check in to see how everybody's doing. And we were just talking about, it was especially vital to check in when the pandemic first started, because we were like, hey, what are you doing? Are you closed? Are you offering curbside service? How are you sanitizing your materials? Are you sanitizing your materials? So that was very vital to have these Zoom meetings. And sometimes it was just like, hey, what CDs are you listening to today when there's nobody in your library and you're working there by yourself? So these directors have become colleagues, friends, and a great support for each other.
This is Kathy Shaw. I'm from Edgewood, and I'm the old lady of the group. So I get to talk about some of the things that we've done in the past. And I don't know how many of you out there remember when Governor Tom Vilsack was in office. His wife, Christy, was a huge library supporter, and she wanted to visit many of the libraries in the state. So we came up with the idea to invite her to Clayton County and show her around to all 9 of the libraries in the county. So we set up a little map, and we did the road trip with Christy. I think I'm maybe the only director in the county that was here for that. This is a picture of First Lady Christy Vilsack with the Edgewood trustees and myself. Gosh, I look young there. Jeepers.
I didn't even recognize you at first.
So anyway, it was great. She at each library, she met with people. I had a class from the school come to our library. She read a book. We all met in Guttenberg and had lunch together. So I hope she enjoyed it as much as we did. So go on a few years, fast forward to when Angie Manfredi was at the state library, and she voiced an interest in visiting as many libraries as she could. So I brought this up at a director's meeting. What do you think about inviting Angie to Northeast Iowa and giving her a tour of all the libraries in Clayton County? So she came to the Edgewood Library and toured my library, hopped in my car, and I chauffeured around Clayton County. We got to visit all the libraries. She shared a lot of useful information with us. We all met together in Elkader and had lunch together. So this is something that is relatively easy to do if anybody's interested in doing anything like that. We had a great turnout for that. Lisa talked about us being having our 501c3. We did this in order to be able to write some grants. The biggest grant that project that we did was to automate all the libraries in Clayton County. Again, at directors meetings, we try to discuss new technology and things like that. And we knew that automation was something that all libraries were going to go to. And we also knew that some of the libraries in the county probably wouldn't be able to do that on their own. So we got busy. We looked at different software companies. We got price quotes on them. We looked at different funding options, and we wrote a lot of grants, and we were able to get grant money to purchase the automation systems for the 9 libraries in the county. We're really proud of that project, and we are glad that all of us, one of the things we wanted was to be able to share a catalog so that we could look for books among our county libraries for our patrons. Another thing, we wrote grants to our gaming commission. The first grant, we all got money to purchase reference books, and then another grant, we purchased children's picture books. Another grant that we did was to acquire a touch screen computer and tablets, and then to provide tech classes. And this is a picture of a class that was held at Elkader. There was another slide in here that had a picture of us at a director's meeting, and we handed out the tablets, and then we all just played with them. And that's how we came up with the outline of what we thought we needed to teach in the classes. And so we got the grant, we developed a class to be able to teach our patrons. And then at least one director was with the home library presenting the class to be of help if there were any questions or anybody needed help with that. Yes, each library held a class, and we
used everybody's tablets for those classes.
For
and then
those
at
classes.
the end, each library got their own.
Yes. So we've talked about how we've done projects using grant money, but we've also done projects that don't cost a lot of money. One was material rotation. Back in the day when we listened to audiobooks on CDs, they were quite expensive, and a lot of our libraries didn't have a big budget for things like that. So we did a material rotation. Each library picked out 5 CDs, and we had a round robin where we sent the CDs for so long, and then we moved it on to the next library. When you got your CDs back, why you got 5 new ones, and we continued the process. This was beneficial to the libraries because it helped with our budgets. We didn't have to spend as much money on those audiobooks. And it was beneficial to our patrons because they got new material every so often. Also, one library was unable to get all of their things barcoded and get their automation up and running. So we had work days and helped them so that they could get automated and use their system. We also compiled a list of historical items and items that would be beneficial to genealogists. A lot of times we had people coming in, and one particular library wouldn't have the information that person needed, and we didn't really know where to send them. With this master list, we were able to say, maybe you should go to such and such a library. They might have something to help you. And then another library experienced a flood and lost a good deal of their collection. And so all of us tried to donate books to them so that they could get up and running. Another project that we do is a county brochure. This has a map of the county, and then it has each individual library's address, phone number, website, email, and hours open. I think most of us probably have them at our front desk that we can give out to our patrons. You know, we have people in our communities that work in other communities, or they might want to take a road trip, and they can see by looking at that brochure who to contact, who to call, or the hours that library is open. And then another thing that we did when I first started, I did an annual report for my city, and then I also sent that report to the county supervisors. Well, through the years, one of the directors in the county was talking to a supervisor and they said, you know, this is just ridiculous. We have 9 reports in front of us. A lot of the stuff on the report, it's interesting, but it doesn't really pertain to us. Is there something different that we can do? So we do a shared report. Each library shares a few statistics and maybe something that happened or a service available, and it's geared towards our rural patrons. So the supervisors know that we are using the money that they give us to serve the rural patrons of our county. So another big project that we do is the summer reading program Round Robin, and Heidi is going to take over now and tell you about that.
Okay. I'm Heidi Lant, and I'm the director at Murphy-Hellwig Library in Monona, and I'm also the director at Farmersburg Public Library. I did also want to point out something I thought of after we had put our slides together. The Clayton County Library Association also has officers. One director is the president and treasurer, and one is the vice president and secretary, and each is a 2-year position, and then it rotates alphabetically. And once you're done being the vice president secretary, you go to be president and treasurer. We also rotate alphabetically who's hosting the spring and fall meetings. So like right now we have our 2 officers are Garnavillo and Guttenberg. And so is it next year when it'll be Guttenberg and McGregor? So it's just kind of a nice way to structure it so we always know who's next.
Isn't that clever? Librarians
We're using the alphabet. Okay, so like Kathy said, one of our big things that we do every other year is a round robin. So, you know, what is a round robin? Well, as part of the summer reading program, every other year, we have the round robin, and it's a program that the library directors plan, and it will be done at every library in the county. So it's planned during our monthly director meetings, and we start discussing the round robin probably in January or February. Since we do only meet once a month, it takes some time to get everything kind of decided on. We brainstorm ideas around the theme. We decide what we'd like to do within the summer reading theme. And while we're going over the ideas, we do try to make sure not to take away from anything that one of the libraries already has planned. But we also come up with other ideas that we don't necessarily want to use for the round robin, but individual libraries might want to do that. We decide on the book, activities, and craft. Once we have a theme decided, everyone starts looking for a good book to go along with the theme. We all know the struggles of trying to find the perfect book to go with any theme, and having the perfect book that also has great illustrations and be a great read aloud. When I started, I was a children's librarian, so I always got to pick out all the kids' books. So it's always fun for me to get to be a part of that process for the whole county because I'm just kind of a nerd. Picking out books is still one of my favorite parts. Anyway, at the next meeting, everyone brings back any book suggestions that they might have found. If you find a good one, we don't always all find a good one, so we're not fighting over 9 different choices. But the same goes for any craft and activity ideas. Again, we always want to make sure that we're not taking away from something that one of the individual libraries wants to do. We divide labor on the purchases. Once we've decided on the book, one of the directors will volunteer to order a copy of the book for each library, and then they turn in the receipt to the president and treasurer to be reimbursed. The same is done for craft supplies. The directors will decide what supplies are needed for the craft, and like the basics will be purchased for those crafts by the CCLA. Each library can add to the supplies to tailor the craft for what their library wants to do. We often have a shared tub of supplies if needed, especially when there's an involved activity. There's a shared tub that rotates to each program. For example, if there's an obstacle course, that's usually a big one. One library might have the little traffic cones, one will have hula hoops, one could have a 2x4 that we're using for walking the plank, or who knows what else we might come up with. You never know with us. But this way, all the libraries aren't expected to have each item for the activity. And as we all know, libraries of all sizes are always trying to make the most of our budgets, and we try to save wherever we can. We create a schedule of help. The joy of scheduling. Each library picks 2 dates and indicates a first choice or a second choice. Then the other directors sign up for the dates that work for them. Each director will help at 2 other libraries. When you include the director of that library, each event will then have 3 directors at it. This is really great because, as we all know, it's not always easy to find good helpers that are available when you'd like them to be. It's also fun as directors to visit other libraries and see what their different displays are and what they all have going on. So once we figure out who is going where and when, then we figure out who can move the activity tub to the next library. It may seem odd to think about that, but when you look at the county map, you can see that some of our libraries are actually quite a ways apart. If an event is in Monona and the next one is in Edgewood, we're 45 minutes apart. So as much as I like Kathy, we don't often visit each other's libraries because we're not close. One year we did have to have 2 tubs of things going because we had more than one event on a couple of dates. Scheduling can always be a challenge, but we always seem to make it work out in the end. So you can see an example of how we chart the dates and the volunteers and the tub movement on this slide. It's really great to be able to provide one summer reading event for each library. It's one less event for each of us to plan, which kind of gives you a bit of a break in the summer, which I think we can all use. I know when I was the children's librarian, that was always the week that I would do our summer vacation because I knew I didn't have to be there. My director was going to be there. There were 2 other directors coming in. They had the whole thing planned. I could miss that day and not be worried. So that was really nice for me. So here are some of the summer reading events that we've done in the past. In 2015, it was Every Hero Has a Story. And you can see the craft here was a superhero coloring page. There was also an obstacle course, which can be tailored to each library. You can see this one was set up outside. There was also an egg race, or was it a relay? You guys,
something like that.
It was either a race or a relay. You know, whatever works for your library. Like I was probably on vacation for that one because I don't remember it. Works for me. It looks like an egg race, but I feel like we were always fond of relays too.
Balls or something that wasn't actually breakable.
Not really.
Yeah, not real eggs. We'll avoid that, especially now we can't afford the eggs.
Sorry, we get off track like this at our meetings too.
It happens a lot. In 2017 was Build a Better World. This was the first year that the CCLA bought a copy of the book for each of the libraries. Before that, we had sent the designated book in the traveling tub to each library. We had decided at a director's meeting that it was better for each library to have its own copy because then it can be checked out, after the program. This year we had a bingo game and another obstacle course because kids really love them. And as it was a construction theme, this year in the course, there was a part where you had to hammer a nail. And I don't know if you can tell really well on the slide, but this is literally a piece of styrofoam and a meat tenderizer. I think the big piece of styrofoam was from a box that we had gotten a computer in or something. So it didn't really cost a thing, well, other than the computer, I guess. And that always fits our budget. And more importantly, again, the kids loved it. In 2019, it was a universe of stories. This year, we got to pick between 2 books. We really liked both of the stories, but some of the libraries already had one or the other. The activity was an asteroid toss, and each bucket was labeled as one of the planets, and we chose to include poor Pluto. The asteroids were little balls of crumpled up tinfoil, so again, very inexpensive. And I know that the asteroid toss turned into a meteor shower of tossing back and forth at each other and to me at my library, but again, the kids had fun and that's all that matters. For the craft, we had the kids make their own constellations. We had laminated examples of constellations that traveled to each library along with the buckets and the asteroids. So the kids could recreate the original ones, or they could design their own. And of course, some did both. That year, the CCLA purchased the black construction paper, star stickers, and I think the chalk too, didn't they? Yep. So. And then each library could add more stickers or anything else that they wanted for their individual libraries. In 2021, we didn't rotate to each library because of the joys of COVID, but the CCLA still purchased a book with a theme for each library. And we also had a mouse template that we had circulated that everybody could do something with. And at our library, we use it to make puppets. You can see these 3 kids are from my library having a little too much fun maybe with mouse puppets, but but they had a great time and that's the important thing. In 2022, it was Read Beyond the Beaten Path. So we called our program Rockin' Robin. Since we weren't able to circulate in 2021, we decided to do the round robin again in 2022. We decorated rocks for this craft. The CCLA provided each library with glue dots, feathers, pipe cleaners, and googly eyes for the rocks. And my assistant Susan got rocks for free from a local quarry. And she said that they told her she could have them as long as she picked them up herself. She told me the story of this just the other day, and it made me laugh. She said she walked into the office and said, "Is it okay if I take 365 rocks?" And the guy in the office is like, okay. So, and she also got a little distracted because as she was out picking up the rocks herself, I would get snaps. "Oh, look at this pretty one. Oh, look at this pretty one." And I'm like, "Susan, come on now." I'm pretty sure she kept a couple for herself. We put the rocks into containers, and one day Susan went on a road trip to deliver them to all the libraries. You're welcome, Iowa Shares. We didn't try to send the giant pile of rocks via you guys. It took Susan a little over 2 hours to make the loop to all the libraries in the county. We also had a laminated rock geode matching game. One way that some libraries tailored the event was to also make pet carriers for their rocks, and some libraries painted their rocks into kindness rocks. I know ours had kids make their pets and then pet carriers, and then we had a separate teen event for kindness rocks. So we were actually able to make 2 events out of it. Another thing that we do together is we partner with the Clayton County Development Group. And they have a booth in the commercial building at the Clayton County Fair every year. The commercial building is open Thursday through Sunday. The CCLA mans the booth Thursday and Friday. So there are 2 shifts each day, and we have 2 reps from each library for each shift. Usually it's a director from the library, but we've also had other librarians or even board members sit in the booth. The booth has information on everything in the entire county: maps, pamphlets, booklets, really all kinds of information. So when we're there, we like to promote the libraries by making sure that the library brochures are maybe front and center, or, we try to make sure everybody sees them, and also make sure that they're current pamphlets, because every so often it seems like they find a stack of old pamphlets from 20 years ago and try to hand those out. So we just try to make sure that doesn't happen. They do a basket giveaway every year. They have the Clayton County Development Group has a basket of various things from all over the county. It could be coffee mugs, wine, t-shirts, gift certificates, pretty much anything goes. And I think last year's basket was worth about $450, if I remember.
And the first couple of years we were at the fair, there was nothing for the kids, and the librarians thought the kids should have a basket.
Exactly, and that's why it's definitely an adult basket from the development group. So we all put together to make a kids basket. We take turns who collects the items, which can be shipped via Iowa Shares, by the way, because they're a lot lighter than rocks, and we put them in a basket. The fair is in August, so all of our summer reading programs are over by then, because we all learned long ago you never try to compete with the Clayton County Fair for an event. You will lose. But it often works out so we can use leftover prizes or donations that we haven't used, or anything that you have in your library you can donate. And then with all 9 libraries contributing something, it always makes for a really nice basket. And the kids are always surprised that they get the whole basket instead of just getting to pick out one thing.
If you look at this picture, you can see the big basket from the development group. And this was the year that the summer reading program theme was Building a Better World. And I think this is the only year that the libraries contributed money, and we purchased, in front of the basket, you can see a big Lego set. And we did purchase that year because it went so well with the theme. But otherwise, it's just usually things that we have around.
Yep.
So, what are we doing now? Well, I happened to see that or read that Canva Pro would provide a subscription if you were a nonprofit. And so we have one of our directors is investigating that now, and they're going to fill out a form or whatever it takes to get a Canva Pro subscription for the county. And again, we think that this will be great because if somebody makes a poster for something that somebody else can use, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And having Canva Pro, I don't know about any of you, but we use the free version. And every time I have the perfect picture, you have to pay for it. So hopefully we'll get around that with the Canva Pro. Also, then we want to organize a CE event to go along with this, once we get the Canva Pro, we'll have an event that we'll learn how to use it together. What's in our future for plans? It's hard to tell. We have a lot of creative and resourceful directors in the county. And, you know, most of us are gang for anything. So stay tuned, because I'm sure we'll come up with a lot of good ideas. We hope that this gave you ideas of low budget things that you can do for your libraries, how you can even partner as a county with outside entities, and have fun. So if there's any questions, we'll take questions now.
Okay, I had to unmute myself here. We didn't have a whole lot of questions, but a few. There was something early on asking about whether or not each of the library directors serves as an officer in your nonprofit, and it seems like you take turns, so you kind of answered that one for us. Wondering if you can maybe spell out a little bit more about what your combined list of historical items includes. Did you invest in like one of the genealogy databases, or you did the research on the county cemeteries, or what did you do in that regard?
We did not. This was things that it was mainly local newspapers, in case you had a relative in a certain town that you wanted an obituary for. It was some of the libraries had cemetery books for the cemeteries located near their town. So you could research in there. I'm not sure. Those were the main things.
Maybe some local area
Plat books, yes.
And I loved a lot of your ideas that I have encouraged counties in my district to do. I'm the district consultant in Central District, and I know that I have some of my directors in the audience who are really good at collaborating with their county librarians as well, and doing many of the things you are. It's wonderful. But my favorite things that you talked about were the fact that you have the one pamphlet that promotes all of your libraries to your citizens. And you also present the one unified report to your county supervisors. I think that's one of the best ways to get your county supervisors on board with funding all of you. When they see you working together, collaborating. In fact, I'm going to mention Greene County here. I know Jane from Jefferson's in the audience. They do collaborative summer programming similar to what you described by bringing in presenters, and they use some of their county funding for that and say on the flyers, this is paid in part, supported and sponsored in part by your county supervisors. And boy, those county supervisors love that little bit of positive publicity for them. So it makes them more willing to want to fund. So it sounds like you're doing things right with your county supervisors there. Somebody, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking somebody might be asking about the fact that you have incorporated means you are a private organization, which is great for getting the grants. But I think there's some concern here about the libraries contributing to that organization with your regular budget money. I don't know. I know
we don't really contribute except for those yearly dues. Otherwise, our individual budget monies don't contribute.
Okay. Yeah. And just so
I thought somebody's question about advice for a county where 3 out of the 4 librarians are brand new. Our directors' meetings are very informal. Like I said, they're via Zoom, or they were here and I would have donuts, or we were talking earlier about just meeting for coffee or something, just informally start talking, and then questions will come up, or, hey, how do you do this? Or what do you think I should do about this?
Yeah. And Mary, who asked that question, I would say, talk to your district consultant. I attend as many of the county meetings as I can in my district. And I think all of my county district colleagues would say the same thing. Sometimes we can be helpful in letting you help get people together. We can help provide CE at your meetings. And Mary, I would say, just contact the other librarians and say, hey, let's all get together, set up a doodle poll and find out what day and time meets best. Say, let's all get together. You're welcome to come to my libraries just so we can meet each other. But there's so many things that librarians can do together. Maybe not to the extent that you've all done it in Clayton County. You've gone over and above, but start out small and build from there, I think.
One thing I might add to that is if you're going to start having county meetings, keep in mind, geographically, our county is quite big. So we've always done our meetings in Elkader because that's kind of in the center of the county. So none of us have to drive as far. Other counties, it might work better to rotate between the libraries. You have to personalize it to what works best for you, but that's what seems to work best for us in Clayton County. And also, you'll find if you have smaller libraries, one-man libraries, it's hard to find a time that works for all the directors. And so, we have even rotated days that we do our meetings so that if someone's busy on a Wednesday, they can come on a Thursday. So we've even done that too, so that everybody's included and nobody feels left out.
Right. Or if you can find a time that does work with everyone's schedule, you stick to that. Okay, the third Thursday of every month, we know this is our county meeting group. And you're overachievers. You do so much and you meet monthly. I would say to the people in the audience, don't feel you have to do that, especially if you're just trying to start a county group. Meet quarterly, which is what a lot of our county groups do, at least in my district.
And that's how we started out, just 2 or 3 meetings a year. When I first started as director, and what's nice about it is you get a chance to talk in detail about things that you can't talk about at your big meetings with the trustees. We talk about things that they're really not interested in because it's our job to do those things, to pick out the books or to decide the programming. So
yeah, Jane and Jefferson just mentioned something that they do over in Greene County, which is, I love this too, as a county activity, is to every year sponsor countywide trustee training. So you're bringing all the trustees from all of your libraries together at the same time for the same kind of training. And I know in Greene County, the trustees are actually starting to look forward to it. They start to ask, but they always do this in November. So around September, hey, when's our big meeting and what are we going to get for food? So
we always have food at our spring
food
and fall
is good.
meetings. Yep. If you feed them, they will come.
That's right.
One thing to note too, though, when we do our monthly meetings, we typically always take off summer because summer is not a good time to be away from your library. It's just too busy. So we usually don't meet in June and July, and then we come back in August because like I said, it's just too busy to be away.
Somebody just asked, how are the craft supplies and books for each library? Well, I just lost it now. It went by too fast. How are they paid for? Those are paid out of your combined nonprofit group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is good to have a fiscal agent. That makes it difficult a lot of times when libraries do try to collectively write grants. It's, well, who's going to be the fiscal agent here? It's always kind of dicey to figure that out. So having your private group makes that a little easier for that.
We also, like Heidi said, we also add to it. A certain amount was purchased for each library, and then each library supplemented with extra feathers or pipe cleaners or whatever if needed.
Laura just brought up a question about sharing an Amazon subscription. She uses that as an example with a private organization. And that's kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning. You're doing wonderful work, but just be careful about the law that says public entities, such as a public library, cannot be spending funds and resources for a private organization. And actually, by incorporating it seems you become a private organization. So when you're writing the grants, that's perfect. That's an ideal way. And when you're collaboratively showing up at the fair and doing your summer programs together, those are ideal things to do. But just a little warning there for people that are wondering.
And we don't use our, other than the dues, we don't use our personal library budgets to pay for anything. Yeah.
We've got 2 minutes here. Nobody has asked this question, but I know it has come up when I've dealt with county events in the past, so I want to mention it. How do you count all of the attendance from these activities on the annual survey when you've got so many libraries involved? And I do have the definitive answer from Scott Dermont on that. So as an example, that your fair, when you all go to the fair, if however many libraries actively participate in that, if all 9 of you go to the fair and you have people coming up to the booth and that's an outreach, or you're doing a story time at your booth, you would all be able to count that as a program, and you would divide the attendance by 9, assuming that all of you actively participated in the presentation. Now,
This is
let's say,
news to us, so we're
Okay.
excited to just be able to start counting these
That's
things.
good to know. We
let's say
haven't-
that you have a library that for whatever reason, they become a slacker one year and they don't lift a finger to help at the fair booth. They would not get any credit for the attendance of the
Yeah.
program.
Interesting.
We did
So,
not know
That
that.
is good to know.
Talk to Scott Dermont, who my colleague at the State Library, who oversees the accreditation and the annual
Sure.
survey,
Mhm.
for the definitive on any of those types of collaborative events where
That's
you're
awesome.
Mhm.
attendance. You can come back and be with us all again at lunch. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Clayton County
you.
sounds like an
Bye.
awesome place, and we love having you. You've got great ideas. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.